Everyone, welcome to Solving Radical Equations. The goal today is going to be solving radical equations. We might get to inequalities in this unit, but we're going to solve radical equations. Okay, so let's look at these first two. So we have 8 times the square root of 2x plus 3 minus 10 equals 30. Okay, so the goal is to get x alone, but we've got something multiplied. The x is under a square root. We've got this 10 over here, so we've got to chip away to get to that x underneath the radical. And we're going to start that by adding 10 to both sides. Okay, so I'm going to add 10 to both sides here. Okay, and that leaves me with 8 times the square root of 2x plus 3, that's all under the radical, and that equals 40. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to get rid of that 8 because it's being multiplied. So we're going to undo that multiplication with division to both sides. So I'm going to divide each side by 8. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write what's left. I'm going to have the square root of 2x plus 3, okay, and that equals 5. Now we're at least to the square root. To undo a square root, we square it. So we're going to square both sides of the equation. And we're going to be left with 2x plus 3. Notice, and that's going to equal 25. Notice now here on the left, there's no more root. We can now work and get to the 3. So we're going to go ahead now and work and get to the x. We're going to go ahead and subtract 3. I misspoke, sorry. From each side. So we subtract 3 from both sides, and we're left with 2x equals 22. And our last step here is to divide each side by 2. That's how we undo that multiplication. So we know now that x equals 11. So that's our answer, but we should check this to make sure, okay, in case we have an extraneous solution. So if I go ahead and check this, okay, what you're going to do is you're going to plug in your value for x. You're going to have 8 times the square root of 2 times your x value, and we're going to check to see that makes 30. So you got to plug 11 in for x. That's what you found x to be. Oops, we wanted red there, but that's okay. Red 11. So let's go ahead. You have 8, well, times the square root of, well, 2 times 11 is 22, plus 3, that's 25 under the radical. Minus 10, does that equal 30? Well, 8 times 5, okay, that's going to equal 40, right? 8 minus 10, does that equal 30? The answer does check out. Okay, so that's your goal today. Can you solve radical equations? Let's look at another one. Very similar to this. Okay, so you can pause now and wait and try this on your own and see if you get the same thing I do. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this second one. You have 2 times the root of x plus 4 plus 9 equals 1. We're going to start by subtracting 9 from both sides. Okay, so we now have 2 times the square root of x plus 4 equals negative 8. Okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and divide by 2. Divide by 2 to each side. And we're left with the square root of x plus 4. That equals negative 4. Well, remember, to undo that square root, we square both sides. Square that negative 4. Okay, so now we're left with x plus 4 equals 16. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. Okay, now this is, so we're going to subtract 4, and we get our solution as x equals 12. Okay, so let's go ahead and check this. X equals 12, and it's important to check all your solutions for these because we get sometimes we sometimes have a problem. So let's check our answer. All my math is correct. Okay, let's go ahead and do 2 times the square root of our number plus 4 minus 9, does that equal 1? So our number was 12. Okay, so let's see what we get. We get 2 times the square root of 16. Okay, right, 12 plus 4. minus 9, does that equal 1? Okay, well the square root of 16 is 4, so do we have 8 minus 9, does that equal 1? The answer is no. And this is what we call an extraneous solution. So this does not work. This is called extraneous. So it's always important to check your work when you do these types of problems, because sometimes you get what's called an extraneous solution. We think it works, we think it's the actual solution, but it proves our equation to be false. So there is no solution here on number 2. Okay, so that's our first introductory video on solving radical equations. Stay tuned for video number 2 on a couple more examples, and if you have any questions or comments, just type them below and we'll see you next time.